Always been keen on the sons of Tappet. We've done well with him. He's broken out quite well. He's a beautiful mover, potentially a really nice two-turn horse going forward. We're really kind of very fond of him.
We bought the Tappert filly out of the Blue Eyes in the Rain filly at the Keeneland sale. What we really liked about her was obviously her physique. We liked the way she moved, and we just fell in love with her from the start, really.
Tappert, standing at Gainesway.
Always been keen on the sons of Tappet. We've done well with him. He's broken out quite well. He's a beautiful mover, potentially a really nice two-turn horse going forward. We're really kind of very fond of him.
We bought the Tappert filly out of the Blue Eyes in the Rain filly at the Keeneland sale. What we really liked about her was obviously her physique. We liked the way she moved, and we just fell in love with her from the start, really.
Tappert, standing at Gainesway.
Hey everyone, I'm David Aragona, and welcome to another edition of the TimeformUS Road to the Derby series presented by Gainesway. Thank you to Gainesway for presenting all of our Kentucky Derby prep coverage at the Daily Racing Form this season. Focus of this video is out in California on Saturday, the Grade 1 Santa Anita Derby, their final prep for the Kentucky Derby, offering 100 Kentucky Derby qualifying points to the winner of this race. Just a field of 6 signed on, and it's really a matchup between two horses drawn right towards the center of the field. Let's throw up the field for this race, and you could see those two favorites are the number 3 Forbidden Kingdom and the number 4 Messier. John White, the morning line maker out at Santa Anita, pegged them very close on the morning line. Messier as the even money slight favorite over Forbidden Kingdom at 6-5. Both of these runners coming off blowout victories in the local prep races leading up to the Santa Anita Derby. Messier winning the Robert B. Lewis, with Forbidden Kingdom impressively taking the San Felipe in his last start. 3 other horses listed at 20-1 on the morning line, so some horses that don't really figure to factor as major players in this race. We'll talk about a couple of them towards the end of this video, but the real wild card in this field is the number 6 Taiba, a horse making just the second start of his career off a very impressive debut. Now, 3 runners in this race are switching out of the Bob Baffert barn. I'm sure if you've been following the racing news recently, you know Bob Baffert is serving a suspension right now for that Kentucky Derby positive last year. So Tim Yakteen taking over the training of the number 2 Armagnac, the number 4 Messier, and the number 6 Taiba for this race. We'll see how they run first time out for the new barn. Before we get into those main contenders, though, let's take a look at the TimeformUS pace projector for this race. And it's going to be a really fascinating tactical race for the jockeys in the Santa Anita Derby, because you see that number 6 Taiba shown on the front end. That's not atypical for the TimeformUS pace projector. When a horse runs really fast in its career debut, they typically garner a really fast early pace rating. So that's why he's shown on the front end. It's another thing for a horse to show that he's fast in a sprint race than it is for him to actually be ridden that way, stretching out to 1 1/8 for the first time. I would imagine that Mike Smith is going to be a little bit more conservative rather than sending Taiba all out to get in front of Forbidden Kingdom in the early going, because the number 3 Forbidden Kingdom is a very fast horse. He has not really been headed in any of his dirt races for the opening few calls. So I would not expect Forbidden Kingdom to be, behind another horse in the early stages of this race. We'll see how they ride the number 4 Messier. He's a one that went gate to wire in the Robert B. Lewis last time, but I don't believe he's quite as fast as Forbidden Kingdom in the early going. Another potential wild card for the pace is the number 2 Armagnac. I don't think he's quite as fast as those 3 horses do as outside, but you kind of wonder why he's in this race, because he's one of these Bob Baffert to Tim Yakteen trainer changes who doesn't really seem like he's got the credentials to run the Santa Anita Derby, but maybe the owners are just helping the race go, adding another horse to what would have otherwise been a 5-runner field. Let's take a look at those last out winners, beginning with Messier when he won the Robert B. Lewis Stakes by 15 lengths. And we'll take a look at him running through the stretch this day all by himself as he opens up, coming around the far turn, and takes a sizable advantage into the lane to win this race, as I said, by well over a double-digit margin. Now, there wasn't too much behind Messier this day, and some of the horses that finished behind have not come back to run very well in subsequent starts, including that runner-up Cabo Spirit, who came back and was no match when never a factor against Forbidden Kingdom in the San Felipe in his next race. But does it really matter who's behind you when you're winning a race by 15 lengths as easily as Messier won this Robert B. Lewis? He earned the best speed figure that we've seen put down by any 3-year-old so far on this Kentucky Derby trail, getting a 125 TimeformUS speed figure for that last race. seems like a legitimate number based on those that finished behind him as far back as they were. The one reservation that I do have about that Robert B. Lewis performance is that red color-coded race rating box all the way on the left-hand side of your TimeformUS PPs. That indicates that the track was speed favoring on February 6th. So maybe that carried along Messier a little bit. He was setting the pace the entire way. Sometimes speed favoring track can really exaggerate a speed figure. I'm not saying that Messier ever would have lost that race, but maybe he would have won that race by 8 lengths rather than 15 over a fair racetrack. So you do want to be aware of that stuff when horses really have things in their favor and now are facing a bit more adversity, finding himself in a race that's likely to feature a faster pace. And also he might not find himself on the lead this day with Forbidden Kingdom in the field. So I respect Messier off that last performance, but let's be honest about this horse. Without that last race showing, he would not be considered a major contender to beat Forbidden Kingdom because his prior races, especially that loss in the Los Alamitos Futurity two-back, were not the most inspiring efforts. Let's move on to Messier's main rival, Forbidden Kingdom, and take a look at his last out victory when he won the San Felipe last month at Santa Anita very impressively. Whereas Messier had kind of a moderate pace in winning the Robert B. Lewis, Forbidden Kingdom, he took no prisoners on the front end in this San Felipe. He opened up on this field right out of the starting gate, took a sizable advantage into the far turn, and just never let anybody else get into the race at any point. There's really not a whole lot of closing going on from the back of the pack, and you can see him with his ears pricked, just coasting in, an easy winner of this race. Now, he didn't run quite as fast as Messier did when that one won the Robert B. Lewis, but that 119 TimeformUS speed figure that Forbidden Kingdom got for winning the San Felipe last time is certainly nothing to sneeze at. That's among the highest speed figures we've seen posted by any 3-year-old so far on this Kentucky Derby trail, and Forbidden Kingdom answered a lot of questions in that last race. He had only gone 7 furlongs up until that stage of his career, but he proved that the 2 turns was no problem going a mile and a 16th last time out. He's got to get an extra 16th of a mile in this Santa Anita Derby and potentially do so with a bit more pace pressure, but if Juan Hernandez rides him the same way that he did in the San Felipe last time, I'm not sure that anybody else is going to want to tangle with this horse on the front end because he is extremely fast, and I think you pay the price if you try to go with Forbidden Kingdom in the early going. So I think this horse is very dangerous coming back. We'll see how some of these Tim Yakteen runners are ridden if they do apply that pressure, but I view Forbidden Kingdom as the horse to beat because I do believe that that last out effort was totally legitimate, and he could come back and give Richard Mandela one of the major contenders in the Kentucky Derby if he is successful on Saturday at Santa Anita. Another runner coming out of the Tim Yakteen barn is the number 6 Taiba. He is that horse that I was mentioning towards the top of this preview that is coming out of just a debut victory in a maiden race. Let's take a look at that race when he won on March 5th at Santa Anita. This was a pretty impressive victory. He was obviously competing for the Bob Baffert stable on this day, took all the money getting bet down to 1 to 2 odds, and he did not disappoint. This son of gun runner sold for $1.7 million as a 2-year-old in training, and he certainly ran to that purchase price, or appeared to, in this debut race, winning off by over 7 lengths. Got a 120 TimeformUS speed figure for this performance, and a number like that certainly puts him in the mix against a grade 1 company, but he did have some things working in his favor. You can see those blue color coded TimeformUS pace figures. Didn't have to run the fastest in the early going, and he really did his best running through the stretch of that race. So perhaps that bodes well for him stretching out in distance, but really going from the 6 furlongs all the way out to a mile and an 1/8 is a tall order for a horse just making the second start of his career. And furthermore, I think you can poke some holes in that speed figure that he got first time out. Let's take a look at the chart of that race in the TimeformUS PPs, and you can see I've highlighted with arrows the 3 horses that have come back out of that debut run to subsequently race again, and all of them have regressed from a speed figure standpoint by I think 31 points, the next one by 9 points, and then the last one again by 9 points. So I wonder if that 120 TimeformUS speed figure was not all it was cracked up to be, and I think Taiba is going to need every bit of that performance if he's going to be competitive with the 2 favorites in the Santa Anita Derby. Regardless of whether he's successful, though, he thinks figures to be a pace factor that could mess up either of those horses if he is aggressively ridden from that outside post position. Doug O'Neill has entered a couple of long shots that are going to round out this field. One of them is the number 5, Win the Day. If this race really does fall apart, maybe he's one that could pick up pieces. He got a fast pace to close into last time against Maiden Company and was able to take advantage, winning that race by over 5 lengths. But this is a big step up in class. He was not beating the best field last time and had a lot of things go his way. So I think he's really going to need horses to completely fall apart if he's going to get into the trifecta in this spot. I'm actually more interested in Doug O'Neill's other runner, the number 1, Happy Jack. This is a horse that I admit I've kind of had a thing for since he made his debut. I was impressed with the way Happy Jack won that first start, going 6 furlongs first time out, and they really threw him into the deep end of the pool right after that. He finished behind Messier and Forbidden Kingdom in his next couple of races, contesting the Robert B. Lewis and the San Felipe. But I think he's been subtly stepping forward. He obviously had no chance with that speed favoring track and the way Messier ran in the Lewis 2-back, but I thought he ran slightly better, staying on for 3rd behind Forbidden Kingdom in the San Felipe last time. I'm not viewing him as a win candidate here, but if you're looking for a horse that might be able to pick up the pieces, perhaps get up for 3rd in the trifecta at a big price, I think Happy Jack is definitely a candidate to do so. So let's throw out my picks for this race. I'm going to put the number 3, Forbidden Kingdom, on top. I do think it's primarily a matchup between those 2 favorites drawn towards the center of the field, and I do give the edge to Forbidden Kingdom. Just really impressed with the early speed this horse possesses, and I'm not going to be surprised if he's able to run them off their feet once again, going the extra 16th in the Santa Anita Derby on Saturday. I've got Messier in second, but to me, he's really got to prove that blowout effort in the Robert B. Lewis was no fluke, but he's definitely a major contender off that performance. And I've got that long shot that I've got a thing for, the number 1, Happy Jack, in 3rd. He's the runner that I would try to get into the trifecta at a big price in the Santa Anita Derby on Saturday at Santa Anita. Thanks to Gainesway for presenting this video, and good luck to you if you're playing the races this weekend.